What's up, everyone? This week on the pod, we have Ryan Hoffman from Justice League, Chain of Strength, and briefly doing Circle Storm. And we're going to go through all his stuff. And he was very generous with his time. He was an awesome interview, answered everything, and I really appreciate it. If you would like to support the podcast, please like, rate, review the pod wherever you listen to it. Subscribe. Call your friends, tell them to subscribe, tell them there's a podcast talking about this shit. This fucking underground weirdo shit. Niche as fuck. And yeah, spread the word, please. That's the number one most important thing. Also, if you want to go the extra mile, you can go to patreon.com/185 miles south, become a patron, help out monthly with whatever you can do. And I really appreciate those people. They are my true personal heroes. Now, let's get on to Ryan Hoffman, man. Fucking tight-ass interview. Thanks for the support, dudes.
185 Miles South, a hardcore punk rock podcast.
All right, this week on the pod, we have Ryan Hoffman from Justice League, Chain of Strength, and Circle Storm. So, Ryan, how old were you, and when did you get into like punk and hardcore?
Oh wow! Yeah, I was just thinking back. I believe I got into it in 1980. As I kind of remember, I think my introduction was I just kind of learned about skateboarding. There was a skate park in Orange, California called the Big O, and I remember going there with some like friends of the family. We went there, and it was just amazing. There was just like, people skating and tons of cool music. And it turns out Devo was shooting their video for Freedom of Choice. Like that sort of week that I got into skateboarding, and then just kind of took off from there, just kind of watching that, the filming of that video, learning about Devo, and then I just was totally into skating and music at that point.
Yeah, what town did you grow up in?
So I pretty much grew up in like Buena Park, Orange,
Okay.
and then my parents, then we moved to the Inland Empire.
Gotcha. To the Pomona area, correct?
Yeah, it's like we called it kind of Pomona Valley hardcore. But yeah, I grew up in Chino, the city of Chino.
Yeah. Were you into music before you were into Devo, or was that the first thing you really dove into? Did you like any rock and roll before?
Yeah, I knew just, stuff. I had an older brother, and so, I would learn about, we just like go through my dad's records, and, and there was a bunch of kind of junky stuff in there, but occasionally we'd kind of, pull out a Led Zeppelin record, or, and so, yeah, I knew about, Ted Nugent and, Led Zeppelin, I think at that point. And so, yeah, I think that's when it really kind of a light bulb went off when I was at the skate park.
Yeah. And after Devo, what do you get into? Like what type of, do you jump right into punk out of there? It's kind of a stretch, right? Or maybe it's not. I think you hear so much about that. I'm full disclosure, like I'm 40. And so that's my age range. And so I'm too young for that stuff. And I think that, a lot of old heads, like the Devo thing makes total sense. And then some of us that come in way after, like, I get that it's like underground and it's weird and that's rad, but I just don't see the jump.
Yeah, totally. It wasn't, I loved it just because it was new and fresh and it was different. And people were kind of dressing weird because Devo was new wave,
Mm-hmm.
But I think I really started understanding punk more when I just started hanging out at the skate park. So after that, I was like, oh wow, I'm all in here. So it was like after that, there was like some sort of bands put on. I think it was Christian Hosoi, like skated for Vans at the time, and they were playing cool music. I went back to the Big O, and like Dwayne Peters was playing this band called Lost Cause from Orange at the time, and it was just that's when I heard sort of the the super underground of punk. You know, the local bands playing hardcore and punk, and that's what I really kind of got into. And they just they were such good skaters and they dressed super cool. And I was like, a young kid. I'm like, wow, this is like super sick. And so, that's where I was super intrigued by it all.
Yeah, and they're right there in front of you. So it's like these are normal people that are doing something. I mean, they're larger than life in your eyes, but they're still normal dudes.
Yeah, it just seemed like like so unattainable when you kind of like, wow, really, like local guys are like starting bands, like what, like that seems impossible, and then that sort of led into we had our crew of kids that were skateboarding, and that's when we were like, hey, if they can do it, we can do it. But probably before that, I would sort of like, kind of educate myself on things. I started going like to the Upland skate park, and then this dude rode up. He had a big mohawk. I started learning about the germs and stuff. And this guy rode up, and I thought he was Darby. I just had a big mohawk, and how many other people had mohawks? Sure. It turned out it was George from Christian Death, and he's the drummer of Christian Death. And I was like, wow, what the fuck? What's Christian Death? And then I find out that, Roz from Christian Death worked at this record store in Pomona called Toxic Shock. And so we'd all kind of go there and see what's up. And that's really how we really dove in and really, got to, just figure out the scene really. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you remember your first show?
Yeah, I want to say, I think my first show were kind of like just local, small, like halls, like very, very underground bands in Pomona. I believe those were my first shows. And that was kind of like those local bands. It was like Red Brigade at the time and Catch 22. These were kind of local bands. And I don't know if that came first, or I remember when I'm pretty sure those were the shows I was going to when I was in junior high. And then when I was a freshman in high school, we had a friend who, like, I think his parents were divorced or something, and they like his mom lived in Fullerton, and then his dad lived in Chino or whatever. And then there was a new club we heard about in Fullerton called the Galaxy. And they put on, more high profile punk shows. And so that's when I got to see Social Distortion and the Vandals. Before that, like first Vandals broke, that first record came out. Like they were an opening band, I thought. So it was kind of like those bands. And then then JFA came through. And then it was like the Circle Jerks and Bad Religion, and then at that point, I had confidence and I was stage diving and all that, and then I was dressing, punk, and I was all in. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, what was the vibe like at some of those early OC shows?
They were. I was such a little kid, and my friends. I mean, we were, like I said, I believe we're freshmen in high school, so we were super young, and yeah, it was intimidating as hell. People are like fucking, they look tough. And, I remember there was a kid on our crew, we'd die to wait for, the show, we'd go to school, talk about it all day, all week. And then finally we'd go to the show. And one kid was just like, he just couldn't hang. He was just freaking out. He was so scared. He was like puking and stuff, it was intimidating. But then, like I said, we kind of started getting our confidence after a few shows. Yeah. And then, I remember like JFA, and they were the skate punk band, and we were just like, fuck it, we're stage diving, we're just going for it. And then, just that's it. We owned it then,
Yeah.
That was super fun.
And that would have been around what year, you think?
I think that's 82.
Okay. Do you do a band before you do Justice League?
Yeah. Those same kids that I was going to these shows, that's final, kind of, we were just like bored one summer, and we were going to all these shows, and we were just like, listening and skateboarding and listening to music. And then we were like, hey, let's try it ourselves. And I was, everyone would raise their hand. I'm play drums. I'll play bass. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was the drummer, and I never played drums in my life. You know what I mean? I didn't know what I was doing. So everyone just bought their instrument, and they came to my parents' garage, and we sucked.
Yeah.
We had a great time, but yeah, we were terrible. And then we kind of started figuring it out, like, hey, you know what? You're probably better on bass. You're probably a better drummer,
Sure.
And so, so I went to bass.
Okay. Did you have a band name?
Yeah, we were called Diversion.
Okay. And did you play any shows?
Yeah, we just played like parties.
Yeah.
Just like parties around town.
Cool. And then out of that, where do you meet the Justice League dudes at?
Yeah, pretty much. Diversion was pretty much almost the same people that were in Justice League. What happened was we started kind of like just like reading Flipside and just learning more about, and just kind of like we started playing our instruments a little better and just honing in on the type of sound. And at that time, and this was the huge kind of influence for me and some of my friends, was the Cafe de Grand in Hollywood.
Sure.
That was like the spot. So we would, we didn't drive at the time. We'd get rides with older, people at our school or whatever, people that had cars. And so we'd jump in their car and we'd go to shows there. And man, that's where like we started kind of figuring it all out. That's where we saw Solid 13. And would kind of figure out what we want to do. That's when we were kind of like, hey, and then we were going to Toxic Shock more and more, and we were learning more about like underground hardcore, America's hardcore kind of bands. And it was like, SOA and all the Discord stuff and Touch and Go stuff. And that's when we, kind of honed in on our. And that's when we started Justice League at that point. And we were. Oh, go ahead.
No, well, do you do a demo, or is the first song that you record that Attitude song?
So yeah, Justice League. It was funny. It kind of happened pretty fast. Again, we were 15, so we didn't drive yet. And I remember, we loved the cafe, and we would there was a number on the flyers like, call this guy Michael if you want to book a show here. And I remember we would just go to a payphone. We didn't have cell phones. We'd go to a payphone and we'd call Michael, and then shit, Michael's not there. We'd go call again, but try to get a hold of Michael. And we'd say, man, we're this new band. Just give us a shot. We just want to play. We just want to play a show. And finally, he's like, fuck, you kids are, determined. Just, okay, whatever. Okay. We don't need any money, whatever. And so, yeah, our first show ever was with DRI. And that was like huge, like that, 22 song 7-inch just came out. Yeah. Everyone was talking about it. And so when our whole like high school went to that show, and I think like we weren't allowed to go to Hollywood, so we'd all lie and say we're staying over at friend's house. And so that's kind of where it happened. Just League got the, it just kind of happened so fast. And, we played with DRI, that show was huge. And then we played with BGK from Holland, who are super awesome. And that's where we sort of met everybody as well. They were just like, wow, look at these young kids, like 15, like, playing, hardcore. And that's where, people that were hanging out at that time, or just people hanging out that became like bands, like, Matt from Infest was just some dude that was hanging out. Like the guys from No Effects were hanging out. Like, you have just the dudes from Excel. All these guys that were just hanging out at that time just went ahead and shit. They could do it. We'll start our own bands, and it just started snowballing.
Yeah, it's wild. Do you remember the first time you recorded?
Yeah, it was awesome. We recorded. So we went to Mystic Studios. That's kind of where everybody went, because no one knew what we didn't know what we were doing, and so we met the Stalling 13 guys, Ill Repute guys, and they said, hey, go to Mystic, and they're doing a comp, and that's where we went in there and recorded. It was so much fun. It was crazy. So that's where we met, like, El Duce from the Mentors, and he took it was just crazy. It was like a crazy time for young kids, kind of roaming around Hollywood.
Did you just record that single song then, or did you do more?
Yeah, no. So it was just that song at that time, and then the band just started kind of, through the year. We were together a long time, and we changed so much. Like, singer would quit, and then we get a new singer, then another singer.
No, we're gonna get into all of it.
So, yeah. It was a disaster, but it was so much fun.
I mean, that song is so cool, though. The Attitude song, like, it comes off as a genuine, like, 15-year-old kid song. Like, you're not I don't know, you're not batting above your pay grade. It's like hardcore. This is what it is to me. Yep. It's rad.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that song. It was. I think it was had a different name, and Mystic kind of messed up on it when they printed the record. So, anyways, that's another story. But yeah, we only went in there and we recorded that one song.
Yeah. So this is the song "Attitude." It comes out on the Party Animal comp on Mystic Records in 1984, and it's like the second of the three of that series. So starting with like the We Got Power, then the Party Animal, and then I think there's a Party or Go Home is the third one. The third one's kind of bad. This one's still pretty. This one's still pretty good. You got a lot of good bands on this. So No Effects on this, Scared Straight's on this, Ill Repute's on this, America's Hardcore, The Grim, and Sluggo also. Yeah, ton of songs. I mean, there's like 40 songs. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I want to trace back Straightedge in California. Is Stalling 13 the first Straightedge band from California that you know of?
You're probably asking it wrong.
Okay.
I'm a terrible historian.
Yeah, the reason why I ask is I heard that it was Stalling 13, then America's Hardcore, and then Justice League.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, I remember America's Hardcore being right there. And I don't know if they were before Stalag or right around the same time. But yeah, those two sort of, seemed like they were running around the same time. And then Justice League came out. And then it seemed like there were maybe a few others going the same time as well. I believe there was a Unity in Orange County with Rob Lynch singing, and then there was Uniform Choice, who started out more as a punk band, but then kind of turned into a straight edge band because they had a different singer. Yeah. So yeah, there was like it was brewing, and the cafe was sort of the place because that's where the super underground touring bands played. Like you had Marginal Man. So all the, kind of the Discord bands that were touring would play there. And the Necros played there. And yeah, that was sort of the spot. And that's where, all these people were going. And that's when, everyone was kind of learning about, hey, let's play, it was kind of like, yeah, I believe that's where sort of this whole straight edge thing was exposed.
Yeah. It's such a shame that the America's Hardcore never came out on record. It's just kind of a demo lost to history outside of a couple comp songs.
Yeah, totally. I agree. I mean, they were awesome live. God, I can only remember the one time I saw them was with the Circle Jerks at this place called Seamus O'Brien's, and yeah, they were so good. And but I remember kind of like Drew uh, was super cool, just I mean, I just remember going out with Stalag, and I think they sort of acquired the America's Hardcore van. So yeah, I think they just hit it like quick. Like Drew was like, he was really energized to like get out there and hit it, and he was ready to go. So he was the one that was making the shirts and everything. And that was the whole merch thing. That was such a huge influence to everybody.
Yeah, it's a rad shirt. The
Oh my
AHC.
God.
I mean,
Yeah.
and then on the your band after Justice League. I mean, talk about the good shirts. But so,
we totally bit their style.
for sure. So Justice League goes and you do your first 7-inch, the Think or Sync 7-inch, and
Yeah.
is this self-released?
No, we were Toxic Shock. A guy that worked at Toxic Shock had a label called Fart Blossom, and it's on his label, Bob Durkee's label.
Yep. Okay. And do you remember going and recording for this? Like, what was that like?
Yeah, totally. So yeah, I mean, again, like kind of growing up, I was like, wow, this like sort of dream is coming alive here, and just the best live band ever. It was like America's version of the Clash was Social Distortion. I mean, you would go see them. They were just so much better than everybody else. It was amazing. And so we were just like, where did they record? And so we went to the same place they recorded, somewhere in Fullerton, I believe. I forget the name.
Super cool. And how was it like writing a chunk of songs like that? Was that like a challenge? You're 16 at this point, right?
Yeah. It kind of sucks because the original Justice League songs that we played, that I think got everybody super interested in us, and you can see them actually on the Flipside video. Flipside filmed us one night, and I think we have like 3 songs, and that's like the original band. And then when Think or Sync, when we went to record that, it was like there was a different bass player. I moved to guitar, and then we got a new bass player. It wasn't the same thing. It slowed down. It was kind of like trying to be a little more metal. I don't know. I don't really like that record. I wish we had recorded prior to that, like the original lineup.
Yeah, you think that this is less raging than the original?
Oh yeah, we were way faster. It was just a whole different band. We actually originally had a different singer, and then it was just Time Think or Sync. We had a different singer, different bass player. It was just it just wasn't it wasn't what we started out to do really.
But you have Roa on this record, and he ends up being a dude that's around forever. Even singing for Eyelid in the final iteration of Eyelid. So he has a good run. But I mean, I don't know. That's neat that he's on this record. I think 85, like that's old school, And it's cool. It's a juvenile effort, but it's a cool record. I think, but not anything spectacular.
Yeah, I appreciate it, but yeah, it wasn't really again what we kind of set out to do, and I think Roa would totally agree. We were childhood friends. We knew each other before punk and everything, and we went on this sort of journey together, and it was awesome. We had a great time, but yeah, I just think that record wasn't really what we set out to do.
So a year later, you do an LP, the Shattered Dreams LP. You get a new singer. This is Casey Jones. Is this the same Casey Jones that played drums in all the bands?
Yeah, that's Casey Jones. Yeah, he was in No for an Answer, Ignite. Yeah, he was a drummer in all of those bands, and he was, a dude that was there. He was one of the, kind of scenester guys we'd see at all the shows, and he was a good friend of ours. And so he would go to all the Justice League shows, and we'd see him at the Uniform Choice shows and everything. So we were like, oh, yeah, hey, Casey, you want to sing for our band? Noah just quit. It was kind of like that. So he's like, sure. And so, yeah, we just, again, it was just really, it was serious, but we were just having fun as well.
Yeah, and this is a super weird record because, like, the faster hardcore punk songs, like, they get way better. But then you also you delve off like to real, like, I don't know how to describe the other music, like emo-y type stuff.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's it. I mean, because at that time is sort of where, like, kind of Right to Spring came out, and kind of emo started right there. And then we were sort of again, it's kind of interesting. We were like sort of kind of one of the first straight edge-ish bands, and then we were kind of one of the first like emo bands really. And I don't know, for some reason it just like didn't do it fantastic, and I think that's why they kind of get overlooked. But yeah, we were there at the right time. We just didn't execute.
Well, I think the maybe you don't get the credit for it because the record goes so back and forth. Like, it's almost like you hit a fast song, then you hit one of those songs, then you hit a fast song, then you hit one of those songs. maybe you should have done a side A and side B, and then people would be like, holy fuck, like side B of that Justice League LP, like that changed everything.
Yeah, totally. I think it was just like like you throw, you just finally like come up with 10 or 12 good songs, and it's like some are a year old and some are new, and I think it was just, again, sort of poorly executed in a way. We're just sort of learning what we're good at. We're kind of trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, I would disagree on the poorly executed. I think this is actually you're executing two styles really well. It's just it's a confusing record because it bounces back and forth so much.
Yeah, totally.
So, and then this one's on Fart Blossom as well. And that's 86, singer Casey Jones. Now he leaves the band, and you do a 6-song 12-inch the next year in 87 called Reach Out. And this has got to be awesome because you go on Positive Force. So, like, I don't know, to be on Kevin Saget's label, that's got to be insane.
Yeah, totally. I think, we were friends with Kevin. I mean, 7 Seconds were one of my favorite bands. And again, back to the Cafe de Grand, when I saw 7 Seconds at the Cafe, I mean, it was just amazing. And then, you start, back then, you kind of write. There wasn't as many people, so you would write the bands you liked and you're corresponding. And so, I kept in touch with Kevin, and we became pretty good friends. And he took Justice League on tour. So that's when we were about to go on tour, and then Casey quit the band, and I think the guitar player at that time kind of quit the band, and then that's why we were like, there was sort of, the rest of us were like, fuck it, we're going. We don't care. This is a huge opportunity. We love 7 Seconds. All we want to do is play and go on tour. So we played all of our songs without Casey. And then we kind of were writing new songs on tour and everything. And so that record is the band really just without a singer. Our bass player, Mark, took up most of the vocals, and then I was doing sort of the backup vocals.
Yeah, and on this record you go full that style. And and it's really good. It's kind of like a lot of that later 7 Seconds, actually.
Cool. Yeah, they're a huge influence. Yes. Love them.
Yeah. What is your crowd like throughout this? Like, are there people on the, like, when you do the Shattered Dreams, like, are people bummed when you're doing like the emo stuff, or are people feeling that stuff more, and that's like why the band kind of went that way?
Yeah, I think we were just trying to be different. I mean, I think that's when things kind of they were going kind of a couple of different directions, right? A lot of the bands went metal. A lot of the bands sort of were still sort of like Uniform Choice, kind of like more basic, and then I think, 7 Seconds, they were kind of going more this kind of indie alternative route, like REM-ish kind of. And then you had like, Right to Spring and De Kreutzen and all these like cool, interesting bands as well that entering the underground. And that's when we were kind of feeling that style more at that time.
Yeah. What is your favorite Justice League release?
Oh man, probably Reach Out. Yeah, I think the last one I probably like the most. But yeah, but I think I think we finally at the end of that tour we broke up, and I think we finally kind of figured out what we're better at doing, and that's sort of where we started the new band.
Yeah, because you start doing your most insane music ever next. So the next thing you do is you record for the Circle Storm 7-inch, the Spirit 7-inch, which comes out. Well, you record it in '88, right? And the story is, you got to tell me if this is true or not. So the story was that you recorded it while No for an Answer was out having dinner. Like they were recording the Thought Crusade, and then you went in and did the 7-inch.
Well, I want to say I'm just trying to go in order, and Circle Storm was just sort of kind of like a project or whatnot, and really like what happened after Justice League is we broke up, and we just kind of like the drummer and myself, Chris Pratt and myself, kind of like sat at my parents' garage. We kind of made a little studio there, and that's where we sort of just like started going two different directions. We were writing kind of like these, Echo and the Bunnymen kind of songs, and then we were writing like super duper like hardcore songs, which became Chain of Strength. And at that time, we were just like, man, we love Echo and the Bunnymen, we love the Smiths, but man, we're so much tighter, we're so much better at playing hardcore, and of course we love hardcore as well, And so Chris and I we pretty much wrote that Chain of Strength record in in a couple weeks. We just kind of that was we were so good at playing together. We've been playing together so long, and we were just so inspired when the songs were just coming together, and we were just loving it. So we just kind of we were just writing the lyrics. We just did pretty much we're doing the whole thing by ourselves, and then we were like kind of dreaming it all up, like who should we get to play, and that's where we sort of started getting other members in the band. So that's kind of like Chain of Strength. That's when Chain of Strength started really, and Circle Storm was just kind of like a fun thing. How that started really was Chain of Strength went to New York, and there wasn't an opening band, and Chain of Strength was supposed to open, and we were like, oh shit, like let's pretend there's an opening band. And so we pretty much played with like hoods on as an opening band for Chain of Strength. That was like how ridiculous. That's how it started.
And this is before you have a record out. You went to New York.
This was I think at that time the record just came out, I believe.
Okay.
I believe we met, and that's kind of where the No for an Answer thing comes into play. I think what you were kind of alluding to earlier was No for an Answer. Our drummer was also a No for an Answer. Chris Bratton was also a No for an Answer. So we were like, shit, No for an Answer is playing in the East Coast. We might as well kind of like, he's already there. We might as well all get plane tickets, and we'll just play their shows.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how that happened. And you know what? I think that might have been before the record was released. I think it was.
Yeah, because the Spirit 7-inch gets recorded in '88. I don't know if the Chain might have gotten recorded in '88 too, but it doesn't come out till '89.
Yeah.
And
okay.
Who knows when Spirit would have came out? It never came out until '96. So
yeah. Those songs were really Chain of Strength songs that just were never released, and so that's kind of how that sort of came. We just kind of finished them. We finished them later. That's sort of how that came into play. But yeah. So the Chain of Strength just kind of came together, and finally, like we were honed in on our craft. We knew what we were doing. We had a lot of friends out there, and it just kind of came together. And that's when Chris and I were just like, okay, this is what we're kind of meant to do, you know?
Yeah. How do you find Kurt, and how do you know that he's going to have like that insanely perfect voice?
Yeah, it was weird. So yeah, after Chris and I started writing songs, he said, I know this bass player, that lives kind of near me that's also in a band. I think at the time, Alex was in Hard Stance. He was a drummer for Hard Stance.
Okay.
And so he said, yeah, he's a drummer for Hard Stance, but he also plays bass really well. So we're like, okay, let's try him out, you know? And then I knew, Frosty. He was just like, it turned out that I started working at Toxic Shock. I worked there for quite a few years, and I knew a lot of the people because, you know, I worked there. And so I knew Frosty from just being a customer, and I knew he was really into hardcore, and, he had an awesome record collection, and, he was a cool guy. We were friends. So like, we're like, hey, come try out for our band. You know, we have a new band. And then, yeah, Kurt was the interesting one. We were kind of running a bunch of different singers. We weren't sure who was going to sing. We had these songs down. We were kind of writing the lyrics and stuff. And then, we actually asked, Ron from Solid 13. He was, I think he was living in London at the time. We were kind of like all over the place. And then I remember Kurt was in a band called Malicious Intent, and they were playing like a local party. And I remember Chris walked in, he walked into the party and heard Kurt's voice, and he said, hey, that's our singer. And that's what it was. It was just, I guess it was like a terrible PA. And the band had all these huge amps, and Kurt's voice, you could still hear it over all that. And so that's when Chris just walked in and walked out. I didn't even like enter the party. I was talking to people, and Chris walked out, and he's like, hey, we can go. And I was like, what? Huh? And he's like, yep, that's our singer. And that's how it worked out.
That's so rad. When you're on the East Coast and you're playing New York, is this when you hook up with Rev?
No, that's a pretty awesome story. So, you know, we're crazy into this. You know, it's going 100 miles per hour. We're so excited about this new band. So yeah, we at the same time, we're sort of creating it and everything, and we're finishing up, you know, the songs, and we're going to record, all that kind of stuff. We hear about, I'm still in, you know, I'm really close with, like Ray and Purcell. And so they're saying, hey, it's summer's coming up. We're going on tour. And I was like, oh, awesome. Like, so we wound up putting on the show. So I was like, you know, it was like Soulside were coming to town. I was friends with them. Underdog was coming to town. I was friends with them. YOT was coming to town. I was like, shit, like all these great bands are coming to town. Let's put on a show. And so that turned out to be Chain of Strength's first show. So it was kind of like, you know, our first show. It was like, you know, it was just an amazing show. And we, so that was Chain of Strength's first show. It was in Pomona, California.
Yeah. And did you knock it out of the park first night? Like, did you have your confidence and you're jumping around?
Oh, yeah.
Crowds going crazy?
Yeah, we knew what we were doing. You know, it's been years and years, and we just kind of have like this well-oiled machine at that time. You know, we just knew what we were doing. You know, we weren't young kids anymore. We toured many times, and so yeah, so it was pretty good out of the gate. And then we also had our like demo ready, and it was just right there. You know, like Ray showed up, you know, and I said, dude, hey, come listen to our demo. And so he comes in my car, I put it on. He listens to like one or two songs, and he's like, you want to be on Rev? I said, yep. And he said, okay, done, you know? So it was just, it just kind of everything fell into place. And I'm not, you know, and I think people were not happy about it. You know what I mean? Like people just were like, who the hell are these guys that just entered the scene? They already have a record with, you know, ready to go with Rev, you know, they've only played one show. It was kind of like, there was a lot of negativity towards Chain of Strength because it was kind of already baked, you know? And it was hard work getting to that point, but, and then, fortunately for us, it was kind of like a turnkey kind of easy thing. But, and that's what people saw. People didn't realize, hey man, we've been going strong since we were 14 years old.
Yeah, you've paid your dues.
Yeah,
You set it up. You set it up by paying your dues in Justice League 14.
exactly. But nobody sort of like, other bands were sort of like upset at that whole sort of, thing, because they didn't realize we've established our friendship with those guys years ago. You know what I mean? So, so the change sort of was, they were sort of frowned upon by a lot of the other bands. The kids, the fans, they love Chain. Like, we did great, it was just hated sort of by, I don't know, a lot of people say you either love them, hate them, and there's a lot of hate from other bands just because it was too easy, it seemed. As soon as that record came out, we went from, just starting to headlining CBs, you know what I mean? So it seemed like it was too easy.
Well, someone else should write a 7-inch that good.
It was, but like I said, it was just years and years of practice, that really got us there.
Did No for an Answer get any of that same heat when they went on Rev?
No, because they worked hard as No for an Answer. They paid their dues. They played parties. They played everywhere for nothing and built their name. And they had a solid name. And then put their record out. So I think it was it happened a lot quicker, I think, for Chain.
Yeah.
People didn't definitely. They were like, they sort of took. It seemed as though they sort of took Uniform Choice's place. Once Uniform Choice sort of like went metal or whatever, it was like No for an Answer. Just boom, they were like the big Orange County band.
Gotcha. Did Chain do like full U.S. tours, or would you just fly to the East Coast?
I think mostly we'd fly to the East Coast. I don't recall. I think Justice League did the whole U.S. a couple of times. And then I remember, Chain would kind of like fly to the East Coast and we'd play all the major cities in the East Coast. So yeah, I don't know if you know what? One time we did. We did one time. We hit we hit a lot of the cities along the way. So yeah, there was one time. I think it was a quick, kind of like our big show was in New Jersey with Social Distortion. There was like a super big show at City Gardens, and there's a lot of good pictures from that show. There's like a book that's kind of written about Chain of Strength playing City Gardens. But yeah, that was like the big show, and we kind of had to get to the East Coast, but we wanted to hit as many cities as possible.
Yeah, you're hauling ass out there, but you're stopping when you got to stop.
Yeah.
Do you remember any of those shows going across the country? Like, I'm curious what some of these scenes are like.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. I know. I remember you didn't have you didn't check the weather. I don't know why we weren't that bright, but I remember we played. I think probably like Gilman, and then from there we went to, I think, Utah. I remember we played Utah, and then from there we were supposed to play like Chicago, but we kind of hit a snowstorm or something. We were like a day late, and so we missed Chicago. And then we played Cleveland, and I think we kind of missed some of the Midwest.
Did you play with Confront in Cleveland?
Yeah.
What was that like? Do you remember?
Oh man, I remember those guys were great. I remember Cleveland was an interesting place. With sort of like, there was a lot of like Integrity was an interesting band. They would cause a lot of sort of schism with other bands, and there was like a lot of like kind of kind of, I don't know. There's a lot of like stuff going on, a lot of kind of competition kind of stuff. But we got along once we get to a city, and we have a great time, with everyone. I think just people like to talk shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Uh, I mean, them notoriously. So, especially
Yeah.
what they turn into. Um, so you do the 7-inch True Till Death on Rev, and then you decide for the second 7-inch to self-release. Um, that's a pretty bold and interesting move.
Yeah, it's a terrible idea. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
go
it's
ahead.
so weird. It was a terrible idea, and I had second thoughts, and I can remember the time. So Truth to Theft went so great, and then, but at the same time, I think we did have sort of like this ego. We put on our own shows. We like, I don't know, our scene. We were so removed from all the New York guys, and I don't know. We were kind of doing our own thing, and at that time, we were really trying new things as well. Like we were trying to like kind of like kind of just intertwine like more like emo, embrace, uh, Rites of Spring, but into hardcore, and that's what we were really into. And I don't know, we just felt like we were trying to do something different, and we didn't want to kind of get back into that Revelation sort of. I don't know. It was just I remember. So I moved to New York to play with Judge, and I remember we had recorded those songs, and before I had left to New York, and I remember I was at who was recording? Oh, I think it was Moondog was recording at Don Fury's, and so I was there hanging out, and Jordan was there. At that time, I think Ray had already kind of left Revelation, so it was only Jordan and Purcell, and I remember I was like, you know what? I'm thinking this is a bad idea. Maybe we should do it on Rev. And at that time, they were kind of no, you think you know better.
Yeah.
You're stuck now, buddy. It's kind of like that. So yeah, it was a terrible idea.
Yeah, but you self-release, and did you learn
Yeah.
something in that process? Like
I learned.
put out your own record.
Yeah, I learned a lot. I learned that people will rip you off. Like you can ship your records to record stores. It doesn't mean they're going to pay you for them.
Right.
And I just, it was, it was just a terrible experience. And I wasn't at the time, I just wasn't organized enough to really do it right. And it was just a terrible idea, so so it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, again though, it's like these are two of the greatest hardcore 7-inches of all time. Like, what goes into like writing them? Are you attacking like the songs from like a real, like, I don't know, you going part by part, like, or you just because they're more than like bedroom writing songs, right? You got to still be like practicing a lot, playing a lot, and being like really creative. Like, it's like on Too Deep Until Now, like when you go to like the little melodic part on the guitar,
Yeah.
like what else is there like that? Like all, I mean, at that time, right? I mean, 90,
Yeah,
like
I mean,
stuff starts getting really creative right around that time, but you're on the front end of that, like, dipping your toes a little bit.
yeah, totally. I felt like, I mean, we were really inspired by, a lot of those Dag Nasty hooks at that time, but at the same time, we're really, influenced by, we're just really kind of reaching, it was really like a lot of it was, uh, a lot of the DC stuff, we were just really inspired by, Ignition and Rites of Spring, and just trying to do something different in hardcore. And at that time, after writing like a super generic record, pretty much like True Till Death, we really wanted to get creative and kind of put our own spin on it, and really feeling confident. And that's when really, Alex really added. That's when the whole band. I mean, I would say like True Till Death is more just Chris and myself. We wrote a lot of the lyrics. We wrote a lot of the songs. And then I think the second record is when, after we toured, you get to you start working together and learning your craft. And that's when I think we were at our best, that record is super special to me. I really like it.
Yeah, it's insane. How long does the band go after that before you break up?
Not much longer after that. I think at that, after that record, we played locally a bunch. And I think we did, I think we went to the East Coast one other time. But I don't know, I could sense like, Kurt was sort of like the first one to sort of like kind of bail. And, he just didn't seem sort of inspired by it. Like his head was somewhere else. It was kind of like, hey, I need to start my career. That's what sucks. It's like it's in the back of your head. Your parents have always planted that seed. You got to start a career. You got to start a career. And so I wasn't ready. I was still, like I just loved it and I just been taking the ride forever. But I think when Kurt started sort of bailing out, Chris and Alex, they really spent a lot of time together. And that's when they said they started writing songs together and started Statue. And that's when, I don't know, that's when it sort of got like, oh, you're more into Statue than you are Chain. It kind of got into that, and that's kind of, it started fizzling out.
Do you do a post-Chain band before you do Circle Storm?
So yeah, that's no. I kind of no. It was just Circle Storm was just it was a good friend of ours, Kurt and myself, a really good friend of ours, Doug Bellows, who tried out for Chain early on, and just a super good friend of ours. And it was really him. He was just like, oh man, you guys got to do it. I never really got to do it. Hey, let's kind of have fun and write some songs together. And he really kind of put that all together. And then also in that band was Frosty's little brother, and he was another one. I got to watch his brother do it, and so that was kind of like, it was just like a fun project that we were doing. It wasn't really, Kurt and I really weren't like ready to take it anywhere.
Yeah,
it was just a project.
Did you play more than 2 shows?
I don't think so.
I think I was at both.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and then the bass player went and did the Collision band after. With
yes, exactly. Yeah, he went and did Collision with the drummer, and they were younger than us, and this was like their first kind of intro into it, and then they kind of did that, and that was great. That was great for them.
Yeah. So let's talk about the remixes. In '95, Rev re-releases both 7 inches plus a new song. When did you record the first song? The first song.
So that was a part that was an unfinished song that we recorded at that session for the second record.
Okay.
That song was recorded at that time, but it wasn't finished. Okay. And so we were like, hey, let's put something special on this that's not on the other 7 inches. Let's finish that song. And it was crazy. I mean, it was so many years later, and I just, we had some like kind of lyrics that were sort of laying around, and I mean, we pieced that together in like, I mean, I'm talking like 5 minutes. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I mean, we pieced it together. Kurt nailed it on like the first take.
Oh
like,
my god!
He
did it that many years after. He did it years after.
Years.
Holy fuck!
Years. Oh my god!
Because that might be the best his voice ever sounds.
Oh man, that song turned out to be like, it was crazy. Like, never thought in a million years we kind of like just threw that together. I think at that time Chris was in Wool. So he was on tour. He was like in Europe with Wool. I think Alex was in a band with Walter. It was like the band after Quicksand. So he was in New York. So yeah, pretty much just Kurt and myself, we went in the studio. It was one take. done. And it was just like, never thought it would be like, it would come out so well, you know?
Yeah, it turned into an epic song. I mean, when I got a chance strength, you buy the LP, and it was like, so that
Yeah,
song is just in with everything else. It was like, that was a lot of our favorite songs,
that's awesome. Yeah. Yeah. It was just, it was thrown together and it came out great. I mean, there was a solid bass there. I mean, it was, again, it was just an unfinished song that I knew would be, killer. It's just, again, it just sort of like came together easier than I thought. And sometimes those are the best ones, the ones that just flow super fast, sometimes when you struggle and you're trying to figure it all out, then those, they're not as great,
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's still punk, so there needs to be a little bit of that like YOLO mentality in there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
why did you like remix the 7 inches though, and make them sound so drastically different?
You know, just not being experienced, I guess, and never having enough time in the studio. I don't know. It was kind of like, hey, we're putting this out. Let's kind of just rush through it. Like we've never, oh my God, like every time we've recorded, it's been like, under $1,000, like,
Sure.
So we've always just had to we've never had time to and so, yeah, so it was kind of like, Jordan just said, hey, well, why don't we just kind of remix these and then we'll add this. And, we just did it. Like Kurt and I did it and I think Frosty showed up for some of it, but we did it super fast. And yeah, I wish we would have kind of went back and listened to it, would have been a good idea. And yeah, it didn't have the same feeling as the original recordings. And that was a bummer because, so yeah, so our plan is we're going to, kind of do a discography and release the original recordings.
Yeah, I can't believe it's taking so long.
Yeah, well, everything we do takes forever.
No. That's fun.
Yeah, we've been working on it for like 5 years now, so hopefully we'll get it out before the next 5 years.
Cool. Well, you're still doing lots of music-related stuff. Let's talk about Quiet Panic a little bit. Now,
yeah, totally.
This is a multi-tiered thing that you do. It's a label which is affiliated with Bridge 9, and you're also managing bands and doing promotion.
Yeah, totally. I just love music, and I just want to, be a part of hardcore and just try to do something different as well. So yeah, initially I was talking to Revelation about doing kind of an imprint label. And we had a few ideas and it just sort of kind of fizzled out. And that's when, I believe it was Mike Gitter, sort of was talking to Bridge 9, and anyways, it came kind of came alive, and so they were very interested, and so yeah, so we kind of we went ahead and we released a few bands on the Quiet Panic label, as well as we're managing bands, and yeah, it's been less than a year, and we've been doing a lot. It's been going really great.
That's so rad. You manage my favorite band, Take Offense.
Oh, no way. They're your favorite?
Well, yeah, and I employ 2 of them, so I hate when you send them on tour.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I work with this guy, Mike Messina. He's a San Diego guy. We met back in the day, and we just, always talked about working together, just been friends forever. And so, yeah, he handles Take Offense. He works really hard with them, and they're doing great.
No, they're the best. And that new record is insane. And the kids are taking to it. Like, the last couple times they've played down here, it's like the new songs are almost as big as the old ones. So,
awesome.
They kill it. I love them.
That's so great to hear. That's awesome.
Yeah. So what else do you guys have coming up with the Quiet Panic stuff?
Yeah, we're still looking for things, and we're kind of working the projects we have. We just put out a record by Beach Slang.
Mm-hmm.
The record, we just released their LP, and it's doing really well. I don't know. Bridge Nine just emailed me yesterday and said that hit the Billboard ranking, and so that was super exciting. Yeah, we're looking for new bands. We're just trying to look for things that are different, that sort of have a super kind of underground, hardworking bands, and we're just looking for bands that are just super dedicated to their art and just are going to work hard, because it's really hard to get noticed, now. You know what I mean? It's so saturated. There's so many genres and bands, and so yeah, we want to put our money behind someone that's going to work really hard and has and putting out something that's interesting and new.
Yeah, it is so saturated because there's so many bedroom studios, and now with most people just listening to Spotify or like the iTunes music, it's hard to say what's better, right? Like, because there is less of a barrier to entry, and but it can be pretty hard to like stand out.
It's really hard to stand out. It really is, and I think you just have to be sort of dedicated to your art and really just work. I mean, it's just how you get noticed. You got to play everywhere and anywhere, and that seems like that's at least that's how I learned how to do it.
Yeah.
It was easy. It was easier in a way back then because there was fewer bands, but it was harder in a way as well because no one knew about it really. There wasn't the internet. So it's just different. It's different.
Yeah, it's so weird, like missing that generation of like the late '80s like hardcore stuff, because you describe it as being smaller, but also the shows were bigger.
Yeah.
It's like more of a secret club, but like the club was bigger.
Yeah, totally.
So,
Yeah, totally.
such a weird dichotomy, this hardcore stuff. So
It's so confusing. Yeah,
yeah.
it is. It's just, I think there's just way too many genres and too many bands and not enough fans really now. You know what I mean? Like it's weird. It's just confusing.
Well, I would say in the fans' defense, I mean, it's a weird time to be into music because, I had it kind of the same as you, that when you would go out and buy a physical product and sometimes be taking a chance on it, you buy it and sometimes you can be let down, oh, this thing is not super rad, but you're going to try to like it because it's like, well, this is the album I bought, so I'm going to try to find a part of it that I like and connect to it some way. And now with everything at your fingertips, you almost have to flip your attitude that you're trying to not like things because you don't have enough time in the day. And that negative mentality, like pushed on everything, I think is terrible. But I don't see another way to do it.
Yeah, and you just kind of swipe through and listen to bits and pieces. You may not even get to the meat of the song. You know what I mean? You're on to the next and on to the next. And yeah, it's tough. It's tough to stand out.
Yeah.
And you just have to, you have to work your ass off and get noticed. And that seems like the only way that works.
Yeah, the tried and true way, right? Of playing every town and play as hard as you can no matter what.
That's right. And that's, you're going to turn heads. People are going to tell friends. And I mean,
Yeah. Ryan, did I lose you? Hello. Ah! I'll figure out a creative way to edit this to bridge it.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. We can wrap up. I have a couple quick enders that I didn't know where to stick in there. Well, first off, thanks so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
It's fun. It started out as mostly documenting the Oxnard bands, and now for this year, I'm branching out and gonna do California. So I might lean on you for some contacts if you won't hate it.
Oh yeah, of course, no problem.
Because I want to do Pat Dubar.
Oh, awesome,
Is
awesome.
he is he
seriously
reachable?
great.
Is he reachable?
Yeah, totally.
Okay, cool.
You should do Ron from Final Conflict. He would be awesome.
That'd be great. I'm gonna do Ron and Stalag 13 next week.
Oh no way. Okay,
Yeah,
great.
all the way from Australia.
That's
So
fantastic.
yeah, he's hard to track down because of that. And he's a doctor now, not a doctor, but he has a doctorate. He's,
yeah. I just hung out with him actually. He was in Berkeley. Yeah, he was in Berkeley. He was working on something at Cal State Berkeley, and I live in the Bay Area, so we met for lunch.
Super cool. Yeah, he's rad. So it'll be fun to do. Was Chain of Strength always a straight edge band?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely when Chain of Strength started, that was super important. I think as the years went on, I think we kind of I think hardcore kind of became more important to some of the members, and then but some remain straight edge to this day.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite. I read a quote once. I've never been straight edge, so don't worry about me.
Yeah,
but I read a quote once. It was like, "Oh, Frosty only drinks beer when he's thirsty," and I was like, "That's my man." I love Chain of Strength. Because it's always been weird for me because I've never been straight edge, and the straight edge hardcore stuff is like probably my favorite music of all time.
Yeah, and you shouldn't feel weird. You know what I mean? It was like you look at Infest, right?
Sure.
Like Infest were never a straight edge band, but they fit right into that genre. You know what I mean? I mean, I know Matt since like '83, and he was never straight edge, and I was always confused. We were young kids, and I was always like, wait, you're like you like all the straight edge bands, but you're not straight edge? She's like, yeah, no, I'm not straight edge. So I was like, oh yeah, I guess that's why should that be a problem?
Yeah. Yeah. What did you think the first time you heard Infest?
Oh man, they were awesome. Yeah, they were so good. And like I said, I think Matt is just one who like just studies, that guy knows, he knows like everything about hardcore. He's just been studying it since like, 82 or whatever. And so, yeah, he just came out strong,
Yeah, super rad. When you do the re-release, are you going to try to get it out this year, the chain re-release?
It'll, honestly, it's going to take a while. I would say probably in a couple years, to be honest with you.
Do you think
I would love to get it out sooner, but
for sure. Are you going to do more shows though? What do you have planned for Chain?
I don't know. I'm not sure. It's just Chain's just I don't know. I mean, it's not up to me. There's other guys in the band. I would love to keep doing it. It's fun, but I mean, the fact of the matter is, like, everyone wants something different out of it.
Yeah.
To me, it was always sort of like a vehicle to have a good time, to, kind of meet people, to visit with people that I met the year prior. It was just a family, and I never had the intention to make money or anything like that. Like, sure, I would love that, but that just wasn't, that's not why I'm doing it, you know? And so I think, when you get, to where we are in age, everyone has just different things that they want to get out of it. I did not mature, and I still just want to have fun,
Sure. Yeah, I think that's interesting. Have you gotten any like blowback on Kurt being like so over the top, like MAGA dude?
Yeah, I mean that's I would say that's probably a big reason why like chain sort of doesn't exist right now, just because, we're all different. And, and when we started the band, that wasn't a factor, I got into punk because, I'm super liberal and I just, it's just those values of punk, are instilled in me. That's who I am,
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. We're just, we're all different, and that's a big reason why Shane doesn't exist.
Yeah, fair enough. That's uncomfortable. I appreciate you taking that question.
Yeah, I'll answer anything. It's not a problem for me.
Okay, well, if you want, then I have one last one that's awkward too. Did
Yeah.
did Chain of Strength ever get beat up by visual discrimination?
Absolutely not. I'm I'm not even sure. Like, I totally know the name visual discrimination. I feel like, it's just not totally registering.
Two LPs, I think, on Nemesis,
Okay.
In Vain, and the other one's got the song "We Got the Edge," the Straight Edge, and they have a great song called "Those Drugs." But
I totally know the name. I don't recall the records, but if they beat me up, I would have remembered. You know what I mean? Like,
okay.
yeah, I don't, I remember, there's been sort of like a lot of sort of competitiveness and fighting. I remember, probably the closest of getting our ass kicked was probably by Sick Vidal. That's probably been the closest. And that was, over a girl, it wasn't, I wasn't involved, but other members of the band. So yeah, that was the closest to someone getting their ass kicked.
I believe the other LP is "Step Back and Listen." I was brain farting there, but that's a good. It's a decent record, and I'm telling you, there's a song on there called "Those Drugs." It's like one of the greatest Straightedge songs ever. So,
really?
So look him up, because now you don't even have to hate him because they didn't beat you up.
Definitely. Yeah, I don't hate anybody. So.
Yeah, me neither. Gotta spread that love.
Yeah, there's enough hate without me.
I feel you.
Involved.
I feel you. Well, Ryan, you've been totally awesome. I really appreciate you doing this. And you got anything else?
No, thank you so much for the opportunity. And man, keep doing it. This is super awesome. So keep it up. Well, thanks a lot, Zach. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Do you feel like you've been well represented?
I just was myself, and yeah, I think it was great.
Okay, awesome. Thanks so much, Ryan. I will. I'll shoot you a text when I know when this is going to come out.
Okay, awesome. Thanks so much.
All right. Thanks so much. Goodbye.